You are now about to witness the strength of esoteric knowledge. I'm your host, Roland Attenborough, and thank you for joining with me today. This request comes from a recent researcher, Danielle, who hails from California. So make sure you send out a positive hailing to him for this free update. He asked me a really amazing question while recently taking a course on. So let's go ahead and let's talk about this. We are going to take two bodies, Saturn and Jupiter. We've assigned a date when a low took place, March 10th of 2023. At 18,000 or 19,000 here, 856. Now, both of these started in the scales at different points because they were occupying different points in the sky. So let's go take a first look at establishing the beginning of these things so that we can get an understanding of how we would move forward. First of all, Jupiter was at 13 degrees of Aries, and Saturn had just entered the 0 degrees of Pisces. So we were using both of these two for our key and our variables. Let's go ahead and discuss what that is about. In computer sciences or anything, we have to assign things a key and a variable. For instance, we would just say x equals 2. So every time we see 2, we would know, or x, we would know it is 2. So when we see x and we add another 2, we will automatically have 2 plus 2 as our constant is x. And that will result in 4. It's that simple. Here, I have already shown you that Jupiter was at this degree and made this low. Saturn was at 0 degrees. Now this scale lasts just over 2.2 years because that's how long it takes for Saturn to move through the scale. And it just happened to make a low here at the beginning of its entrance into this scale, and this is very important. The end of this scale is in May 2025, and I believe we will be seeing some major pullbacks and some wild swings. We're going to also tie it in with our Jupiter chart, which agrees with my 10, 11, and 12th month tops. Let's go ahead and do this. We've assigned now that our low for Saturn is at 0 degrees, and when it hit this and moved forward, it made a top in April 14th at 31,000. However, it continued to move on until it went retrograde, and that didn't occur here until it looks like June. When that happened, it went backwards in the scale from our 31,000. We then moved backwards to square one. We didn't quite make it back to all this way. However, where did we go back to? Well, by that October and November when I told you to buy, where did it get to? 25,800. And then it leapt up. And then we moved into 2024. And as we moved up the scale, when we did so in 2024 here, okay, it equals our April 14th first top. And that blow off equals 49 and 50, remember? Okay. We have also come back to that. So as we moved forward, March, we made our top. This also agrees with our scale when it was at 52,000. Our time frame called for a topping pattern. We therefore made a top at 73,000 on this date. From there, we went down rapidly, and we came down to, in that late part of March, we came to 55,000. And we have vibrated up to, but not over, 73. And we've been making lower tops and snap tops at this 67 and 70. We now have moved through and we made our bottoms at our 55 and 52. This was our old low, remember? 20, right? I told you to buy, guys. Remember? Okay. So, careful not to cover up our chart. We made our top here. It was at 73. We subsequently had a big pullback. What have our pullbacks been? 55, 56. And we've had a very big one right down here, retesting our old top. Our old January top, remember? That January top equaled our April 14th blow-off top at 31, and it represented this. We then therefore came back to this in August, and our scale started to agree with us that we would start to move down, and that 67 is our topping area, and we would need to get above this, and we didn't. So we continued to move down, and we retested 49 here. Okay, and that occurred, of course, as you know, in August when we had that big, huge pullback. So this area again represents our extreme area across from 73. And again, we're starting to reach into these extremes again, where we're going to maybe see a retest or a revisit. We don't necessarily have to. Okay, so moving into 2025, before we do that, we do not move into the 13th degree until December 5th. And I expect that by that time, this scale is stating we have to be, we cannot be lower, right? We cannot be lower than this area here. We cannot be lower than this area. And that's 58, right? We cannot be lower than this area. We can retest it, but we can't be lower. Moving forward now, our forecast calls for a 10, 11, and 12-month top, which has happened 3 times exactly on time the last 12 years in those 3 cycles that last 4 years. and we have zeroed in and identified the bottoms and the tops. This next one occurs, and we will probably get some kind of a low into this February, and from that area, as well as January, by the way, we have a return to an old January time frame. So inside this January and February, we have a low and a change. And our 10th month doesn't start until February 24th. And then we will have an extreme fast move. And our 11th month will be where I'm calling for a top, and you are to hold me to this, and I'm stating that it will occur between this March, mid-March area, and it could persist up to the 23rd of April, to the 12th month. And we can get up to 100, but I expect 90 to 93. Okay? Why? Why? Well, because Jupiter agrees with it too. Let's go take a look. Bouncing back over here. Notably, 67,000. Jupiter moved up to the 21st degree of Gemini. This is the Gemini scale moving up here. We haven't made it up to that area. Okay, but it's in line with our topping two areas of 3167, so it agrees. And the time frame that I'm discussing, where we would be March, late March and into April, as far as the 23rd of April, we could be 93 to 100,000 right here. Okay, so these two scales, they balance out for our time frame of our forecast. And this one again agrees with our 52, 55, 57, right? And this area right here, because we made a top here and went retrograde now, okay? And we're going to be moving back, okay, sorry, at the 21 here, but we made a top at this 67 and 69 and did not break over it. And we are now moving backwards and will not make bottom until we hit the 11th degree, okay, of Gemini. It doesn't represent you're going to have to be 90,000, but it does state that 57 and 53, right, agrees inside of this with an extreme pullback. Okay, so we could in fact see that. Doesn't have to happen, but it could. So, looking at that, this is how we align the scales with the planetary bodies. And therefore, using other forecasting, counting the months, weeks of all the previous cycles, we're able to move into the months and identify where tops will be and find a price scale that will be similar. Alright guys, I hope you really enjoyed that. Make sure to thank Danielle for that presentation. I've been meaning to talk about this. If you want me to go into this more, this is the kind of stuff that I'll be doing at my in-person workshop with the tunnel through the air. We'll be talking about that some other time. It's this right here. We'll be talking about that coming up as I release the dates for pre-sign up. Okay guys, peace and love.